Hi everyone. I know it's been a little while since I've connected with y'all, posted a video, but I really felt compelled today to get back on and chat with you. Today I really want to talk about how to relieve and release anger. There's so much of it within me right now. um, I'm still frustrated with where we are in the pandemic, with the lack of access to things, lack of solutions, disinformation on the news, inability to travel, see people, just a lot of frustration there. And even though there was, really powerful demonstrations with Black Lives Matter and continues to be, the events are getting charged, politicized, tribal. Criminal justice reforms seem to be coming a lot slower, which is frustrating. And then on top of that, just personally, I lost my job a couple weeks ago, which in this environment just added fuel to that fire, and what might have been just simmering resentment or blasts of contempt every now and again turned into full anger. And so I've been working with my therapist, some life coach friends, just to deal with this. Anger is not an emotion I particularly enjoy. Not that there are never good or bad emotions. They just are what they are, and we have to learn from them. But it's not an emotion I particularly enjoy experiencing. And it probably has something to do with very early on having a deep aversion to anger. I remember being 4 years old playing with a Nerf gun when my grandfather was babysitting and shot him in the eye, and he pinned me down, screamed in my face. His face went red, and I think ever since then I've always been just turned off with seeing anger, seeing fights and really heated arguments, yelling, screaming, which is probably why I've always looked for finding reconciliation or being averse to conflict, all of these things, which is really just running away from dealing with the emotion. So I want to just share with you some things I've been practicing and trying out. There's a difference for me in terms of relieving anger and releasing anger. And so when it comes to relief, anger, any emotion is energy, tension inside the body. So, typically what I'll do and what I've done over the last few weeks is exercise, resistance, cardio, whatever it might be, yoga asana practice, to get the energy flowing throughout the body, to relieve stress, get energy out of the body. Those are helpful. They help relieve spikes and definitely help calm and soothe. Tapping, I know I've mentioned the EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique tapping before. That is really helpful. And then of course, meditation. These are your bread and butter wellness practices, but I've fortunately been practicing them for a number of years now, fairly consistently. And so when I use them to relieve negative emotion, in particular anger, they definitely help. What I have noticed is that they can relieve, but not make the emotion come to an end. Because I'll go outside, and this happened even yesterday. I was at brunch with Maurice and a friend, and I was sitting out in the sun. I hadn't eaten all day. It was 3 o'clock. Yeah, hunger adds to being angry, but I fasted before. Being hungry is not usually a problem for me. But just being around people, not being happy with the menu, whatever it was. Just little things just started adding up, and I started to feel really angry. I wanted to shut down because I didn't want to give that anger expression. Or, I took Hakeem out a couple days ago in the morning, and he was just staring, not doing anything, and I got really mad at him. So these practices, exercise, yoga, meditation, tapping, can relieve, but I noticed that once the triggers came in, that didn't necessarily solve the problem. And the problem is not trying to go around the emotion as opposed to going through it. So there are 2 techniques that I've been using that are helpful. One is what's called in the spiritual practices developing the witness, which is just observing the emotion. So for me, it's anger. So if you do enough meditation, you get to a place where you can just watch the emotion happen within you, feel all the physical sensations, the thoughts associated with it. But by watching it, we create space between the emotion and our conscious selves, our higher selves, who are experiencing but also holding the emotion. And just by doing that, 5-10 minutes periodically, it creates that space and that gap where I'm no longer entangled in the emotion. And so developing the witness, observing the emotion, creating space between it is really helpful for really profound relief. I can't express it enough. If you want to dive more into this, Eckhart Tolle's got some really great techniques on it. Another one is going into a mode of appreciation. So if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks, this is a technique I've been trying to just live in more and more, which is instead of focusing on the negative emotion, how can I switch my thoughts to appreciation? What do I appreciate in this moment going on right now? So for instance, at the restaurant the other day, the smell of the pancakes, the company with friends, finally seeing people, feeling the breeze on my skin, whatever it might be. So taking in those moments of appreciation, those thoughts will then create a feeling of appreciation. And when practiced enough, it does happen. And we're all just so addicted to negative emotion that it's hard to be in a sustained place of appreciation, but it works. So just practicing appreciation and switching to that space, really, really helpful, really, really relieving. And then the last relief technique, before I get to the release, is vocalization. So I remember being a much happier child when I was singing, and I used to sing every day. I used to do musical theater, I used to do plays, I could vocalize, I could express vocally, and that's half the reason why I do these videos. I get a lot of therapy out of the vocalization. And after not being in that space for the last number of years, I've definitely noticed a difference in how I hold on to negative emotion. So my therapist recommended singing, talking. Some people with anger, it's like screaming into the void. If that's helpful, it's not an image or a practice I'm really kind of drawn to, but singing every day, finding some way to verbalize or vocalize what's going on, gives great relief. Could be practicing a monologue, could be calling a friend, but using the voice, our holder of truth, as a way to release or relieve. And I have found that being helpful over the last few days. The final one, anger, to release anger. And so we're looking at relieving and soothing, but really instead of going around it, going through it. But to really come on the other side, to dissolve the anger, what my therapist and I talked about is that anger is the active emotion, but it's really fueled by a well or a lake of sadness. There's some grief or sadness going on that is unattended to. And for me, that's gonna have so many things going on right now to deal with that. But for the anger to subside and for the anger not to be so active and so heated as it is, I need to confront the sadness that underlies that. And so crying, finding ways to get to a place of emotional overwhelm to cry, I've found always to be the best release. So if these soothing techniques around anger aren't doing the trick, cry. It's the sadness, it's the cool under the heat that's keeping that flame alive. And until that is released, I'm going to continue to experience these bursts of anger. And it's not that it's going to go away. We're always going to have these flashes, but how we deal with it, how we process it, how we experience it, and how we're able to integrate anger into our lives to feel better and work and live better with other people. That's the whole purpose. So thank you for listening today. Awesome to see you again. Can't wait to connect soon. Have a wonderful day.